the capital cost can be a lot. We have to actually cut down on those sustainable things by about 50%. So the development order that we're working with now is the confirmed 2017 development order. Over the last couple of years, let me speak about residential and then flow into commercial. But over the last couple of years, I would say, not too, maybe stepping back from COVID and maybe a little bit beyond, we're seeing a lot of anything in residential. You're really talking about multifamily residential, and there's been a lot of apartments coming up. But there's a lot of apartment complexes, more high-rise complexes, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that the development order changed a little bit, giving us a little bit more density in some areas. So over the last couple of years, we're seeing the trend that we have been more high-rise or mid-rise or denser residential architecture popping up. And also it's spreading more and more sort of into some of the more established neighborhoods. So, and that's because of the development order again. So a lot of that trend is happening. We are seeing a bit more, what I would say, townhouses and duplexes coming up. I think there is a push to get a bit more of those. And I guess a lot of that has to do with maybe the cost and a lot of persons, a lot of talk in the industry is that it is, what would I say now, oversubscribed in the apartment arena. So persons are thinking that maybe it's more townhouses and more affordable townhouses that are needed for young families and families in general. So I think that's a trend that's been happening over the last couple of years. In the commercial realm, there's a bit more commercial that's happening because before that, the development order again, which governs what you can and what you cannot do. It was always difficult to get commercial because of number one, some parking regulations and other criteria that really impacts the amount of the size of the building and the amount of space that you can get. But some of that has been relaxed a little bit. So we're seeing over the last year, 2 years, we're seeing more commercial coming up. And the thing is with commercial, because you can get that rental, it is lucrative in the grand scheme of things, as long as you can get the amount of square footage to the size of the property that you're on. Once that balance is met, commercial is something that developers will be looking at simply because of the rental aspect of it. So we'll see in the commercial that developers keep more of the building, where in the residential, they sell maybe 80-90% of it and keep back a few units. In the commercial realm, they'll tend to keep maybe 50-60% of the building, sell, or sometimes they even try to keep the whole thing. Now that some of the ordinances have been relaxed, we're seeing a bit more commercial activity popping up, especially in Kingston. What I mentioned was the development order. So the one that we currently working with is the 2017 development order. So that one came out, as the name suggests, 2017, but it has always been provisional. So there are things that were put in the order that were provisional, means that they're still looking at it, still reworking it to try to get it to match what the industry is basically saying. So there are some things that, for instance, it'll speak about density. What is that? The amount of habitable rooms that can occupy a particular space on the land, or how high the building can be, or how much footprint the building can have, or how much parking the building should have. It speaks about all of those little ratios, and it's right across the board. It's residential, it's commercial, it's industry, it's warehouse. It has different zones that you can build in. So the development order that we're working with now is the confirmed 2017 development order. So that's a new one that we're working with now. And that's the one that after all of the reworking and the testing and the inputs from the industry stakeholders, that order is now confirmed. So there's some things in the first one that have been tweaked. There's some areas that are a little bit more dense. Some areas that maybe they want to move the density out of. Some areas that they've increased commercial activity, some areas that they want mixed use. There's some areas that they're really trying to push a mixed use type of development. So that development order from the Town and Country Planning Authority and managed by the National Environmental and Planning Agency, that is the development order and the agency that basically oversees what we can and cannot do. Mind you, we can still push and pull against the development order because every case is taken on its own merit. So there might be something in the development order that I might say, well, based on precedents in the area or historical precedents here or things that we see trending, we can get some push and pull. It might not be far from what the line out. Maybe sometimes you can't go outside of those lines. Sometimes you have to stay inside of those lines, and sometimes you have to be so far inside of those lines that you know you can't make no whole heap of change. But there are times when we can push against the order and get maybe some additional relaxation on it. So this is always architects in general really would love to push sustainability in a number of different ways. It could be materials, it could be solar power, it could be rainwater harvesting, it could be natural materials. There's a lot of things that we want to do, and the architects really do try to push that. The problem with sustainable developments and sustainable architecture is the capital cost can be a lot. And if you're looking at the residential development component, unless a developer is not all about the dollars and cents, it would make sense to, put together a product that is sustainable for the future inhabitants, the tenants that will purchase it. But the capital cost can be prohibitive. So if you want to put in all your solar panels, your water harvesting, your extra water tank, your water treatment systems, your shaders, your simple shaders on the outside of a building that cut down on the heat that the building itself gains, all of those things can be additional cost. I'm working on development right now where we have to cut back on so much of the sustainable elements because it was pushing the cost. It was giving a variation of upwards of about 30% of what that building was originally priced out at. So we had to actually cut down on those sustainable things by about 50% in order to make the building feasible. So where we are pushing the sustainable aspect, and to be honest, persons want it, there's a lot of push from NEPA, which is the National Environmental and Planning Agency, as I mentioned before. They want us to do the water harvesting. They want us to do the solar panels. They want us to have smart systems that cuts down the amount of energy that you're going to use. It's just that capital cost is prohibitive at times. So what we tend to end up doing is we kind of meet them halfway. So we'll have the infrastructure for the future expansion of solar panels. In a recent development we did, we ensured that we put in charging stations. Now what we did was we put in one charging station and then we put in the infrastructure for charging stations for each townhouse. So any tenant who buys into development can purchase their unit and can actually install it very easily. So that capital cost is something that will dictate what the initial design is. But we are pushing to do it every time. So we are pushing the water harvesting. We are pushing, for instance, what we do a lot of right now is safety. Let me just use safety as a jump off point here. So your fire water tank, instead of filling it all the time with your NWC, National Water Commission main line, what we will do is we will use the rainwater to fill the fire holding tank, which is great. And then the excess of that can be used. What we're doing in a project that we're doing right now is the excess from that tank is used to water the plants. So we have a holding tank that is filled up from rainwater, and to be honest, it's also filled from the main line. But in the event that you have heavy rains, the main line never has to come into play. So we fill that tank, and then from that tank, now we can use it to water the plants instead of using the water from the main. So we do try to put those things in. The capital cost is prohibitive sometimes, but as much as we can do, we put those infrastructure in place, which may increase the cost on the initial development by maybe 10-15%. But it's definitely so great that the end user, once they move in, they don't have to incur that additional running costs of using the water from the main and putting pressure on the system whenever there is drought, and the dams are going down. At least you can utilize rainwater in many different ways. So sustainability, architects really do try to push it. The cost is prohibitive, but we put in as much as we can to help out that sustainable factor for the end user for their future use.
At Home and Away Jamaica, we help you handle land and property matters from overseas. Whether you're planning your return, managing family land, or just need trusted support on the ground, Visit homeandawayjamaica.com to learn more about our support services, browse the FAQs, or send us your question directly. And if you've already started the journey, we'd love to hear your story. It might just help someone else take that next step. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. We're here to guide you, helping you prepare every step of the way.